Critical Blast, where pop culture gets blasted.
And good evening, everybody, once again from the Critical Blast Caverns. I am RJ Carter, broadcasting to you from sub-zero temperatures and sub-sea level positioning. Yeah, it's sub-seat level. My chair is in the basement, and so is the rest of me. So we are truly underground radio coming at you now over the internet, and we are going to spend another night delving into crowdfunded comics. And we're probably going to talk about some other things that we've got going on, because we've started a lot in January, and we'll talk about that as the needs come up. However, most importantly, we would like to welcome to the show our guest, Mr. John Hervey, and his book, Magna, The Last Pantheon. Is that correct?
That is correct, man. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Glad to do it, man. Thank you for coming out. We don't have a show without you, so it's all you. All I do is ask questions, which is why I do no show prep. Because if I do show prep, I know the answers, and then it's no fun asking.
Right, exactly. Then it kind of takes away the fun of the whole project.
So who is the last pantheon? Because a pantheon, that's a whole group of gods.
That's right. So usually when you think of the pantheons, you think culturally, like the Greek pantheons, the Roman pantheon, Egyptian, Asgardian. And this last pantheon in this book is actually a conglomeration of the last of the mighty men of old that have come together for survival. So just kind of taking a step back in the story, this story is it's set in 1942. So this is a little bit of a mashup book. There's some fun elements to it. There's a lot of amazing and horrific history that occurred in 1942. So we get a little bit of a mashup of some of the elements of World War II, along with some mythical elements. So we have a heroine who has been basically, she's lived a very sheltered life on purpose by her parents, hiding her away, keeping her powers suppressed. And then one day a beast comes knocking, and she has to use her powers to protect her family. And she learns at that point that she's actually adopted, and this sends her on a whole journey of self-discovery. So she starts in Tree City, Idaho, and then she takes a trip to the basically homeland of her adoptive parents in Finland. And you find a little bit of background on her, about how her parents found her, and then she ends in league with this group of this last pantheon. These deities that have bound, they've come together for survival, and now she finds herself in the midst of their struggle.
All right, very cool. Yeah, 42 was a busy year.
Yeah, it was.
And it was a good year for comics, though, because we had a global enemy.
Yes.
Everybody knew who the bad guys were. There was none of this deconstructionist anti-hero. Yes, I'm kind of a bad guy, but I do good things, or I'm really the villain, but I have a large fan base. Villains were hated, heroes were known who they were, and everybody wanted to be the hero.
Exactly. And I appreciated that. I mean, it's funny having read comics throughout the course of my life. Of course, the mid '80s, that was a revolutionary time, of course, in comics. It opened up a whole new world of things, of possibilities. From Crisis on Infinite Earths to Dark Knight. But there were a lot of there's a lot of deconstruction, and I thought some of the reconstruction I really liked, like John Byrne's take on Man of Steel. I really liked that reconstruction.
Oh, yeah.
There was a whole revolution though in there that kind of deconstructed comics in a way that I think was destructive.
Yeah, deconstructing comics at that time, at that moment, was a good thing. Watchmen was a good book. Yeah. Here's the problem with good books. People who run comic companies want to repeat a recipe.
Yes.
If the cake came out great the first time, like, let's make that cake again. But you know what? 17 days into eating frosted layer cake, you start to get sick.
Exactly.
It's like,
Exactly.
no, it's not the same thing all the time.
That's actually a good way to look at it, because I think for me, I ended up having a touch of kind of resentment actually for some of the deconstruction. But it was, I mean, the books were phenomenal at the time, but then it's like, how does that then become, well, then the mainstream wants to do that to the actual heroes that were being represented in those stories. That was, I consider that kind of, it was a neat take.
Yeah.
It was a very neat take on these stories that we had grown up with. But definitely not something that was meant to redefine, all the comic book characters.
Well,
and I think
you had things like with The Dark Knight. Well, Jason was a good soldier. He served me well. Oh my God! Now we know Jason Todd has to die some point. And it was a future story like the Legion of Superheroes. It was never going to get here.
Right. Exactly.
But nonetheless, now we had to kill Jason. Why not do it now instead of later? And then we end up with the 900 number poll, and does he live or die? Memorable story for what it did. Immemorable story for what it was and how it was told.
Yes.
It was kill porn is all it was.
I picked that up. I picked up the Death of Batman, and I was like, really? This is how they're gonna kill Robin? Really?
Yeah. Beat him with a tire iron.
What? And then blow him up. Yeah, and then that was it.
It was horrible. Now, Man of Steel, Superman could have been very, very different had they given John Byrne the full reign of what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
He only slightly hinted at it in Man of Steel, talking about things like, he'd pick up a mountain. He'd say, I've noticed things are lighter when I'm flying them. It was his thought balloon. Well, the whole thing with John Byrne was that he was going to say that Superman had one superpower, and that was that he was the galaxy's most gifted psychic.
Exactly.
It was all, pyrokinesis, clairaudience, because and it made sense because if you think about it, he could hear a bullet from across town, but there's no way he can get there because by the time the sound got to him, that bullet's already hit.
Exactly.
He has to hear it before the sound is made, which is psychic.
Yeah. That I think, he was headed in a really cool direction with that.
Well, you're heading in a cool direction here with your book, and I want to bring that up here. You got a video. We're going to play the introductory video here, and then we'll get into the meat of what is happening in Magna,
Awesome.
Which, by the way, I took Latin for 3 years. Magna means good,
Mm-hmm.
It's loosely speaking, it means good.
Right.
Great.
Right.
So let's take a look at this and see what we've got.
Welcome to Tree City, Idaho. The year is 1942. Spring is in the air, but times are tense as the world finds itself at war. While high school senior Kari Skogsholm finds her provincial life unfulfilling, her parents are eager to keep their lives and, most importantly, their extraordinary daughter under the radar as long as they can. But time is not on their side. They prepare to flee to protect Kari, but something within her compels her to stay and take a stand. It's time to learn truths that have been kept from her, be it out of love or fear or something else. It's time to answer the calling upon her life, whatever that may be. So her journey begins, and things would never be the same. But Kari's story finds its roots millennia prior. The men of renown, known as the sons of God, and the daughters of men in the first and second heavens, joined with raised arms one last time, combining all the power that they had to command. In the heavens, above the world, the last stand of these mighty men was also the last appearance of the agents of destruction, until their reemergence in 1942. Kari must learn the truth about herself, determine the end game of these supernatural agents of destruction, and how to stop them before all is lost.
Good deal.
Boy, I hope that was public domain music so I don't get a hit.
It was. It was actually a buddy of mine, Scott Thrill. There, he made the music and he made it for this. So
Awesome. I get
we're all
hit so
good.
many times. Yeah, there are people who make a scam out of just saying, "Hey, they're playing music. Let's claim it's ours," so they can.
That's
Try to
crazy.
get, and they don't want to take your channel down. They just want to get free click-throughs or free portion of your funding that you get for your YouTube money.
Yeah.
And they have to be fought at every turn. So you've already funded this thing. Is this your first 30 days?
This is my second 30 days. So we're in the last 2 weeks of the live campaign.
Well, even so, that's a healthy funding level here. I mean, it was a $500 flexible goal, and you're at $6,400. That's incredible.
So I was able to do the 500 because the book is already produced. So I had already, produced the book ahead of time and already paid for, paid the artist. So I said, at this point, I want to make sure that the book gets in people's hands. So the risk isn't whether they're going to get the book.
So
So
I'm looking at this now. She's a healthy girl. I mean, she's
yes,
taller than her adoptive parents, and
yes,
and I'm going to say that she's well built, and I don't mean that in the sense of like Vampirella or any of the other characters of similar nature. She's a Wisconsin girl.
yeah. No, this girl. I mean, she's eating her grits and corn and bacon and yeah, exactly. She's
Very
strong.
Amazonian.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. And more will be revealed as she learns. The readers will learn more about her background and who she is. But no, you're very right. I mean, she's, she's taller than her Finnish adoptive father, who is not a small man. So, yes, all of that good stuff will be revealed.
So who's your interior artist here? Because this is really good stuff.
Marcio Abreu. So he is somebody I've known for a number of years, and he's fantastic. He's a great human being and just an amazing artist. And I knew that he had the ability to bring all these characters to life in a way that I really wanted to see them. I mean, you have Pantheon members, so you have creatures and you have people that are larger than life. You have the heroine, who is, like you said, I mean, she's Amazonian in stature. How do you properly portray her without making her look like today's She-Hulk, or making her look wayfish and like she has no business doing any of the things that she's doing?
She looks like Diana Themyscira is getting ready to go to Oz.
I like that. Yeah, she definitely has that build, but she has more of the she's got the ginger locks, so she's got a little bit more of a Pippi-ish, Red Riding Hoodish kind of feel, but in a in a very stout woman.
Now, just to pick on one random panel here.
Yes,
this
sir.
is a unique interpretation of Heracles wearing the mantle of the Nemean lion.
Yes.
I've always pictured it sort of like the headdress. It's just like I've got the skin, I've got the thing on my head. He went full furry with it, didn't he?
He did. I mean, because he's going for the full protection of the Nemean lion. So he had it tailored, so he is in full protective furry mode with that Nemean lion.
I like it. It's not a look you see normally.
No.
But it's working for him. Now,
So I clearly took some license with with these different deities.
and you're pulling them from all around the different cultures. We're looking at some Asian deities here.
That's right. So some of the more familiar ones would be like the Monkey King and Guan Yin are there. So pulling from just different mythos and different cultures, bringing one pantheon together. And one of the things I thought that I wanted to do with the story that was fun, all these different stories, mythologies have a beginning, middle, and ending. So I wanted to tie their endings together somehow. And, and that's part of what I did with the story.
That's very cool. Did you bring in any like the Mayan gods, like, Seven Death or?
Not, okay, so not here, but though this says the last pantheon, there's more to come.
The next to last pantheon.
Yeah. It's the last pantheon that you know of.
Okay. The newly discovered, the undiscovered pantheon.
Exactly. It's the new last pantheon. Works for mutants.
Here. Your first perk is your featured perk, rather, $115 US. That's the paperback graphic novel. I have to slow my mouth down. 75-page graphic novel here, which you're 100% complete. So since you're 100% complete, you're not going to be adding any pages at any point or throwing some pinups in. It's like
I think that's the only downside, I think, of producing kind of ahead of time. One of the things that I like personally as a perk is I like additional book. That's actually my favorite perk is additional book.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make sure we could get this into people's hands by March of this year. So in that regard, production is complete. I wanted to stick with the 75 pages, though there were some other things I wanted to add, but it would push us out into Q2, and I didn't want to do that.
Wait a second now. If you're not printed yet, then you could technically add more pages.
It's really more the production as opposed to that's what will push us out time-wise. Would be more of the production. The pencils, the inks, the colors, the letters, and then getting it print ready.
And I'm going to guess that it's actually a 76-page book because 75 is not possible.
Yeah, it's got to be divisible by 4.
I'm sitting here doing the math on little calculators.
Yeah.
Like, how did he?
That don't divide by 4. Yeah. Yeah.
But I figure, there's like a cover, an interior credit page or a last page.
Yeah. So in all, it'll be more than 75 pages in all.
Yeah. Oh man, we got some people in the chat here. Got Heroinberg here giving us links to the Pantheon site. Thank you, Heroin.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Justin Dutton got a very American gods vibe. I like the gods in modern context.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things. It's like there's so much great source material. You want to pay homage to things without stealing. And one thing with American Gods, I read the novel, but I never saw it in comic book form, and I never saw the TV show.
Good. Stop there. Stop there.
I love the novel. So
yes, if you like the novel and you want more American Gods, don't go to the TV show. Don't go to the comic book. Go to Anansi Boys. That's fine. That's the next novel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know.
Don't go anywhere else. Just screwing it up.
Okay, that's good to know. So I actually made a good choice on that one.
So for $115, you get the graphic novel and you get an 8x10 art commission. So that's by Marco Abreu.
That's right. And he'll do a bust-up drawing of any character of your choosing. So even if it's a character of your own, you can. Because actually, I know one of the people that got that asked me that, and I said, yeah, if you provide him with the references, he'll do your own character.
I wish I had a character. I know somebody who does have a character. I don't have a copy of the book now because I'm all packed up. But yeah, we published a young adult superhero novel, Bulletproof, which is in the link in the description below, below the link to John's Kickstarter, Indiegogo. It's really water. I swear to God, it's not water.
It's not special water.
It's not fire water. So beyond that, we've got the more standard perks. You've got the Magna Digital,
right?
$10 digital.
Yeah, and you and I were talking about this earlier, RJ. I mean, a number of the folks. There's some folks, and this is the thing. There are folks that like digital. So there's some folks that got the digital because that's what they like. There's some folks, a number of folks that got the digital that are international followers, and the shipping is more than the book, and I get it.
Oh yeah. And there's other people that have been part of our chats before and have talked to us. And I think, and they're here now tonight too. They work like remotely. Their jobs take them. One guy works in the tundra outside the Arctic Circle, and it's like you can't drag a long white box of comics along and get shipping up there. So you can have comics on your digital device. That's even better.
Exactly.
Myself, I've always wanted paper. I'm like, why are you getting a PDF of something and paying for it like that? But I've been convinced that there are actually good reasons to have that if you have to have something to read.
There are, and I'll tell you, like with my kids, everything they read is digital. I love paper.
Yeah.
My kids, everything is digital.
Well, I talked. Wow. Was it that long ago? Like 20 years ago, I interviewed. That's how long I've been at this, boys and girls. I interviewed Scott McCloud, and we were talking about things going to the web and digital comics. And he's like, it's going to be a long road to get people to accept that, because you've got the generation that likes their finger flipping pages and tactile, and he said it'll be the next generation down the road that will be just naturally drawn towards the digital.
Yeah.
And I told him, I suppose that at one point there were a group of Egyptian teenagers going, papyrus? What? No, we like our clay brick walls. Thank you very much. We love the crick in our neck, looking back and forth and going down the thing. This papyrus thing, fully with that. It'll never last.
Yeah. No, it's funny. It's funny how we get used to things, But I'm that way as well. Not papyrus, but paper. I like the books.
Now, there's a gimmick for somebody to do an Egyptian comic book and print it on actual papyrus. Ideas thrown out there for free, folks. I do it all the time. Go run with it. Here's the paperback graphic novel with the Torque cover. This is Elizabeth Torque.
Yes. So Elizabeth, she provided 2 of the 3 covers. She provided the one with the wolf creature. Yep, that one. And I know that they're just it just kind of ended up that there were a number of books that had wolf creatures that all kind of came out around the same time.
Weren't there?
Yeah, it's funny because Tonto will put up like posts, and I'll be there with like 3 or 4 other books that have wolves on their covers, werewolf creatures on their covers. This creature is actually a spawn of Fenrir. So this creature is a wolf creature full time, not a man that transforms into a wolf man.
Gotcha. He's a man wolf.
He's a man wolf. Exactly.
That is just really, really good artwork on this cover here. I mean, it's got that kind of sexy thing going for it without being so salacious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it's basically just, I popped a strap in battle here.
Right.
But her clothing's not revealing. It's not ripped revealing.
Yeah, I mean she's in overalls.
Yeah,
she wears them well, but she's in overalls.
And it looks like she's getting ready to punch him over the top of them trees if she connects.
Yeah, she's gonna give him the business. But they're both tough customers.
He's gonna fly like Wolverine did in that first episode of the X-Men cartoon, where he got blown. It's funny if you ever get a chance to watch that 90s X-Men cartoon. He flies out, he gets hit, and he flies over the top of the distant forest, and he never shrinks the entire time. His body out there was like, wait, he's taller than the trees he just landed behind.
That's that cartoon was classic though. I mean,
yeah, it was. And
that whole thing, like none of us even knew who Morph was, but we were just like, oh man, can you believe that? Morph died.
Yeah, he was created just for the show.
Yeah.
He wasn't really. They gave him a new name. He was Mimic from one of the original X-Men, from their original run.
Yeah.
Now, explain something to me a little bit here, because are there 2 different covers, or is this 2 different?
There are 3. There are 2 Torque covers.
Okay.
And then one by her brother Eduardo. So she did this cover as well, which is also I love all 3 of these covers. This takes place in a Finnish village where Finnish and Russian troops are battling, and she's, you can tell she's in the midst of saving a girl from being run over by a tank.
Yeah.
And I just love how it was rendered. I like the idea first and foremost. Just it's kind of the it's like in the Superman movie when little Kal-El was lifting the tractor, or even from the Alex Ross Wonder Woman when she's holding up the tank. I just wanted to do something that was just kind of epic and just like this is power up. This is kind of she's lifting a tank, so she's not just strong from eating grits and bacon. She's got something else going on there.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's some great detail work. Just the detail on the facial structures, the emotions captured here in this little girl who's thinking she's going to get run over by a tank.
Yeah.
Now, she's barefoot in the snow, so she's not the smartest cookie in the jar. I'm assuming that's snow, but
that is snow. So I mean, their village is being attacked, and people are running out of their homes and all that kind of good stuff. One of the things I love about that picture a lot also, when you see the bottom of it, it's almost like snow blindness. It's really kind of bright at the bottom, and then when you see the protagonist, you can see she looks a little bit. You can really see she's shadowed and kind of under the tank, and it kind of has the feel like when you're looking at something in snow. So I really enjoyed that a lot. Now I like how the wheels really kicking up the snow and the dirt. So I thought Elizabeth did an amazing job. With that rendering.
Right. So this is also $25. You just get to pick.
That's right.
Paperback copy, and then this is the third cover.
That's the third option, and I call that one the Behold the Pantheon. You can see, the supernatural light that's beaming down. She's looking up, and they're kind of these deities are all looking down their nose at her, just in judgment and not very impressed.
Yeah, because they're a lot older than her, I'm guessing. Since,
yes, sir.
Her adopted parents raised her from a child, and they're not immortal. So
that's right.
So let's. This is a good opportunity to, roll call.
Yeah,
we're looking at.
We can definitely do roll call here. So, kind of where you have your mouse at your top left, that is a Dvalin, which is actually one of the lesser known dwarves from the lore of like the dwarves that constructed Mjolnir and a lot of the other Norse kind of weapons and magical items. And then if you go whichever way you want to go, and the center is Isis.
Almighty Isis.
Yes. And to the that's Ra. And that's Guan Yin.
Okay, now explain her. We know Isis. Most people know Isis and Ra. But.
Right. So she is a prominent deity in Chinese mythos. And I wanted to introduce her. She's had, just a very kind of wide breadth of I guess quote unquote powers. From powers, from fertility to
That's good in a fight.
Hey, you never know. Maybe you can avert the fight.
Yeah. We said fertility, not arousal.
Oh, well, those two.
Although somebody's already done that comic book. I don't know if they ever completed it or even got it funded, but we interviewed them. They had a book called Orgasm Girl, and that was her whole power was, she touched you and you didn't want to fight anymore.
So there weren't very many fight scenes.
Not very many at all. It only works on men for some reason. I'm like, what if she goes up against a lesbian? Like, well, I don't know.
Exactly.
Well, she goes up against a gay guy, and he doesn't care.
Right. Then she better fight. I hope she's got some training.
Exactly. So it's got a guy here with a crow on his shoulder.
So that is actually that's Loki with one of Odin's ravens.
Is it Hugin or Munin?
Munin.
So that would be. So he's got memory.
That's right.
I took classical lit in high school, and I remember.
Look at you. You are the man.
So he's got memory. So he should have took forethought with him. But obviously we got Heracles here, and
that's right,
in his furry lion costume.
That's right.
And
Heimdallr.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And that is your roll call. And of course, we have our heroine with her back to us.
Absolutely. Now, is she going to have get a special name, or is she going to stick with her? I mean, why should she have a special name? None of these guys have special names. That's their names. So
yes, yeah, exactly. So you'll learn more. I mean, you'll learn more about the origin of her birth name, Magna, throughout the story, and then her heritage, and just like you said, just like Heracles, just like Thor. I mean, that's it. That's your moniker.
Yeah. So she is going to go with a special name. Magna's going to be her name.
That's right.
Okay, because I thought that was like an overarching book title rather than a character title.
Well, a lot of people did, and actually, I think you're the only person I've revealed that to yet. So
okay, you heard it here first, folks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it makes better sense than to say, Isis, Ra, Heracles, and Katie. It's sort of like when you like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Wendy and Marvin,
and Wonder Dog.
Oh my God! How could I forget Wonder Dog? That's one of those things where you're like, you think about watching that when you're a kid, and you're like, God, that was fun. God, that was fun. And then DVDs come along, and you're like, holy crap! I wasted a half hour every Saturday watching this.
Well, it's funny. Because I have access to the DC Universe, and I have my daughter. I was like, hey, I used to watch this show as a kid. So we went to watch like the first episode of the Super Friends. We couldn't get through it. I'm like, I used to watch this as a kid. And the crazy thing is those original episodes, the first episodes, were 45 minutes.
Yeah, they were. They were long.
They were 45 minutes. And I was just like, oh, this is, I so want to just enjoy this with my daughter. My daughter's just like, yeah, she's 7 and she's just like, yeah, Dad, no.
But you know what? Some of that stuff was really good. I mean, take her back to prior to Super Friends. Take her back to the Max Fleischer Superman cartoons.
Oh man,
that's awesome. Nothing that touches those things.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and
did they do? I mean, that was did they use rotoscoping and?
They did.
I mean, like the artwork in there is amazing, and I can't believe it's that old.
I know, and nobody even does anything approaching it nowadays. Now we've got what? We've got Teen Titans Go and Thundercats.
Those are, you know what? Those don't count.
I was watching. My kid wanted to watch the Teen Titans Go versus Teen Titans, and I was like, yes, finally some of the real Teen Titans again. I get to watch. I'll watch it with you. And when they were doing the premiere, they said, stay tuned for a sneak peek of the new Thundercats Roar. He's like, can I stay up and watch that afterwards? I'm like, yeah, but let me show you something first. So I brought my phone up and I brought up an original clip of Thundercats. And he looked at that on the phone and he looked up at what was playing on screen and said, that sucks. I don't want to watch that.
Exactly.
So yeah, show them the good stuff. You can even show them like the Filmation shorts that were done before Super Friends. That were still, the simply drawn stuff, but they were more of an adventure. Yeah, you still had Aquaman riding a giant seahorse. But it was fun.
But it was still good stuff.
Exactly. And no Herwenberg. We did not forget Gleek.
Well, you need what? Jan and Jace?
Zan and Jaina. Jan and Jace were Space Ghosts, man.
I'm like, my bad, Jan and Jace. My bad. I didn't mean to do that to you. Yeah, the Wonder Twins.
That was the most useless set of powers ever.
Well, especially for the guy. She
Yeah.
could at least turn into like animals. He turned into water every time. But Gleek had to have a bucket to put him in.
To carry him around.
If Gleek didn't bring that bucket, he was done. He was just going to spill out all over the floor.
I was like, and you saw him turn into things like, shape of an ice monster or an ice golem. I'm like, why don't you just turn into an ice pterodactyl and then you can fly along with everybody else?
He wasn't thinking that way.
They did make fun of that though on Teen Titans Go when they inducted them into the club. Well, we really only want her.
That's awesome. Okay, that's funny.
There'd be like a fight coming up, and they're like, "Let's go, Teen Titans!" And she'd like have to run over and tag his hand and turn into something big. She was replacing Beast Boy. He had quit, and they had auditioned a bunch of Beast characters, and she won the audition. And he was always left at home to man the desk and take calls.
Yeah. Either that, or he could be water in a bucket.
Exactly. He hated it, so he got together with Beast Boy and worked on her destruction to get him back in. The Beast Boy got fired. Whoa, $55! You can get all three.
Those are prints.
Oh, prints.
Those are the prints. Those are 11 by 17 prints of each of the covers.
That is still awesome. Those are covers worth getting prints of.
I really love those covers. Someone asked me which one is my favorite. I mean, come on, it's like you're asking me to choose between my children. They're all three of them are awesome. They're different.
Yeah, and they're all good.
Yes.
There's none of them I like better than the other. This one, I like them all. This one reminds me of another cover, and I just can't remember which one it is. I mean, we've probably seen it all before. Every time somebody's looking up at the Hero League, looking down at them.
Yeah.
It's nowhere near exactly like it, but it reminds me kind of the Kevin Maguire Justice League covers he used to do, where they were standing in their group with.
I love those, and those were like more of like you're looking down on those.
Yeah,
and I loved those.
He's drawn that like 100 times now because people keep doing commissions from him with their characters
because it's awesome.
It is. It's an awesome cover.
Yeah.
He's probably done it with Archie and the gang by now.
No, that was great. I still have that in that series in my long boxes. It was great when Batman punched Guy Gardner.
One punch, and I missed it.
One punch.
Yeah. That one held up as much as I didn't. I had recriminations about them going sitcom with the Justice League. Parts of that held up well.
Yeah.
In fact, I've got it. I don't have it handily available on my drive now, or I'd bring it up. But I've got two panels that I saved. One was from when Booster and Blue Beetle were, the jig was up with Cooey Cooey Cooey, and they couldn't run the little resort anymore because they found out that was alive.
Yeah.
And Booster Gold is saying something like, "Great, I can't wait to get back to headquarters for Max to put a bullet in my head." And Blue Beetle's like, "Oh, come on, Max would never do that to you." And I was like, "Nope, he does it to you."
Yeah, exactly.
And I followed that with that panel from Countdown, where it's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, Max Lord kind of got the shaft. He was supposed to be a good guy who just was trying to overcome his greedy streak, and now he's just full out villain.
Yeah.
So here's the Magna double trifecta. Now this is
so you get all three
books
and all three prints.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that's a huge deal.
Yeah. Tell you, use some of that stimulus money right there.
Yeah, mine hasn't come yet.
Oh, mine came on Sunday.
I checked
my wife's came on Sunday.
Your bank processes things on Sunday? Wow.
I'm telling you, man.
Yeah, good bank. Mine, of course, I know people said they got it Thursday, and mine wasn't there. I'm like, well, Friday's the 1st. It's a holiday.
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday, nothing happens. It's a bank that I used to work for, so I know their processing schedule. I know that nothing's going to happen.
So you're like, okay, Monday.
I was in their IT department. I was like, yeah, PCOM doesn't run until. So the last tier you got available on here, because these other ones have been sold out. Good luck. Good luck. I'm going to know about that one too. Is the Rod Super Looper Commission.
Yeah. So for those of you that back Black Tiger or remember or know about my book Black Tiger, Rod was the penciler on that 172-page story.
That's a monster.
Oh yeah, that was that's what really kind of set everything up for this universe. So that was the first campaign, and we're gonna do another Black Tiger campaign, and we'll reprint because we sold out of those books. But Rod, he is providing an 8x10 full body pencil and ink drawing of any character of your choosing, and he is an amazing artist. So, I figured, it would probably, at least in terms of pricing, he was really generous on what he was willing to offer it for. So, for $200, you can get that and a copy of the book.
Yeah, your choice of the covers. There's 10 of these available, folks, and nobody's claimed any yet. So if you're waiting till the last minute, now is the time to get in and get this one because it's just crazy. What's this Heroinberg's in chat? We just found out yesterday that the original Thundercats was invented in Pittsburgh. Hey, hooray for you guys. Ted Wolf, he made the first portable record player. So this guy was thinking.
Seriously? Wow.
Very cool. Is he still alive? And did seeing Thundercats Roar kill him?
Seriously.
I would think they'd had to got some sort of rights from. No, he probably sold the rights now that I think about it. To whatever place he was getting the animation done. They did Thundercats toys, didn't they?
What was that?
They did Thundercats toys, didn't they?
Oh, they did. Yeah, they had Thundercats toys. I mean, because back in the day, every show was affiliated with toys. And in fact, oftentimes the toys were first. And I love those things. I mean, whether it was He-Man or whether it was Transformers or G.I. Joe or Thundercats, I mean, had great toys and an awesome cartoon to support the toys.
Yeah, because they were just 30-minute commercials for the toys.
Yeah, and it worked.
And that's why, I think the FCC was like, hey, you can't do a 30-minute commercial and aim it at children. And that's why they came up with that whole, you have to have so many minutes of educational programming going on, which is how, G.I. Joe and Thundercats and He-Man all ended up with that 30 seconds.
Knowing is half the battle.
Yeah, knowing is half the battle. Today we saw Orko was a little bit greedy with the... you had to learn the lesson, get the moral of the story.
Exactly. Now I know. And knowing is half the battle.
Yeah. Oh, those were the best because sometimes knowing is half the battle didn't even have anything to do with the show you had just seen. It was just like, hey, look, the candy store's open. Let's run across the street. Shouldn't we go to the corner? No, let's go here. And then, Blockade would be like, hold on.
Yeah.
This is dangerous.
Oh, that was great.
Oh man!
Actually, but I'll tell you though, what I really loved above and beyond, like the educational portions, was like in the Transformers when they would have the pieces where they would talk about particular characters. Like I remember me and my cousins, we loved the one on Devastator. And it was like a little profile.
Yeah.
They'd do like a profile on Devastator, and they'd show like some of his greatest hits, and they'd be talking about Devastator, and you're like, oh, that's so cool. The Constructicons, and you're.
Well, just from the pages I've seen on the Indiegogo here, you know where I can see this next year, John?
Tell me.
I can see this being nominated for one of the best comic books of the year.
Oh wow!
and I can say that because I'm kind of sort of in charge of those nominations.
Yeah, that is a Critical Blast thing.
I have input to that.
Yeah.
And I say that because I thought I would just, take advantage of the opportunity because, it's my show. To show people what the nominees are for this year. Did you see the nominees for this year?
I did see some of them. Let's see them though.
Here they are. This is the nominees. I'm going to take the branding down for just a moment. These are the nominees for the best comic book story of 2020. And now, I'll tell you, normally, John, this is something where we have like 7. And it's going to be like, the big thing at Marvel or the 3 big things at Marvel and the last 2 big things at DC, and then something good from the independents.
Okay.
This year, it's a free-for-all, and it's just crazy. So we start with The Adventures of Kim Il-sung and
Kami Mark.
And it's just very first thing you see. This is going to let people know, oh, this is going to be different this year.
Yes. These aren't the standard awards, are they?
No. And, you get, okay, well, now we're back to reality here. We've got, Dark Knight's Death Metal is in the running. And, yeah, okay, Deceased Dead Planet, Tom Taylor's book is in there. Wait a second. Demon Hunter Raven? What the hell is this book? And Nicholas Mueller's book is in here.
Nice.
The Dynamite series. This is Dynamite trying to do the Deceased thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And DC at least let Marvel Zombies cool off before went down that road. Dynamite's like, hell no, they're buying it now, sell it now.
Exactly. They're like, hey, this is a thing. Let's do it now.
Dominion, Fall of the House of Saul. This is Darren Bell's book from Terminus Media. And this is literally 2 Samuel done with.
This looks cool. I have not seen this.
Star Wars meets Narnia.
Okay.
It's the entire book of 2 Samuel, right when Saul doesn't totally annihilate the Amalekites and Samuel leaves him. Only they're fighting in mechs and they're flying spaceships.
It's such an iconic story. I mean, that whole segment of scripture is so iconic. I won't lie. I've got a story that riffs off of that as well. It's because it's just,
don't we all?
it's iconic, and you have so many places still to go from there. So I mean, you go from Saul to David. Yeah.
And I think this is this is obviously Saul pointing to my monitor, like everyone can see my monitors over here. My mouse. This is obviously Saul right here.
Right.
This is Jonathan. I can't remember the names of the other 2 characters here. It's his queen and her daughter. But yeah, it's a very cool looking book. We've read the first issue. That's the thing. Everything on here has to have had come out in 2020. It didn't just fund or advertised. It came out.
Right. It had actually be released. Yeah.
Clint Stoker's Rise and Fall, Downcast Rise and Fall.
Nice. He's been doing very well. I'm very glad.
He has been. He's an up and coming star here.
He is
doing a lot better in the next year too, I bet. Joshua Platt's Eudaimonia is a very interesting tale that he's told here.
Interesting.
Of course,
Graveyard Shift. Got that. Yeah, that's a fun story.
The Joker War. We got another DC, quote unquote big 2 anymore because all these guys have just shouldered the giants out of their way to get up here and stand beside them.
Yeah.
Common America.
That's fun.
Probably my favorite slide of the whole show.
Yeah. And I've been enjoying that story too. I've enjoyed the first 2.
Story.
Yeah.
King in Black from Marvel.
Okay.
Kyrie from Matt Krotz.
I'm glad you said it was Kyrie because I was about to call it Kyrie.
Yeah, I remember the old, Kyrie eleison through the darkness of the night. I won't sing anymore. I'm sorry. I'm old. I remember these things.
I remember that song.
Brian Pulido's Lady Death, Malevolent Decimation, #1 from Coffin Comics. Welcome back. Lillian Wepwawet from Tonic Mole. I'm not sure if imprint is Tonic Comics or not, but it should be. Niobe Birthright.
Niobe.
Gaming.
All right, Larry.
Punchline and the Vaudevillains.
Have not seen this.
This Punchline comes out before DC's Punchline. He existed as a character long before her.
Really?
Yes. So that's going to be an interesting battle in the market, let's say. This is a spinoff of Tap Dance Killer, which itself is a spinoff of Apama from Hero Tomorrow Comics. So definitely a very good book. Red Rooster.
Mm-hmm.
It came out in 2020, just not the way we thought it would.
Right. Understood. Yes, sir.
Saving the World, another one from Tonic Comics.
Man.
Soulcast
Okay.
from Paula Ritchie. Oh,
Some good
Soulbound.
books.
Soulbound. Yeah,
Soulbound.
I got Downcast and Soulbound.
Downcast. Yeah, exactly.
It's Soulbound. Sorry, Paula. Starring Sonia Devereaux, the 306th best actress in America, and the 4 direct-to-DVD quote-unquote movies she's done. This is a sexy comedy kind of thing. If you remember watching USA Up All Night and the B movies that they would show, this would be very much in line with those. T-Bird and
Nice.
Throttle. A lot of people telling me that they're voting this direction.
Okay.
Titan, Mouse of Might. I really want to read this one. I have not had a chance to. I'm gonna have to look around probably on eBay for it.
Yeah, I haven't. I've read that either. Man.
It looks awesome.
Wow.
U.S. Assassin.
Okay. Back to something that I have read. Okay.
Another one from Mark Polton and the Graveyard Shift crew.
That's right.
Vestry.
Vestry.
From Mad Cave Studios, Villainous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And wrapping it all up, Marvel's X of Swords. So that
You got a good mixture of stuff in there.
it's a lot. And you know what? We had to put we always put the other category in there anyway. People can write in their candidates, and some of them are getting some traction in the voting. I can't reveal where things are because I won't want to sway anybody's vote. But honestly, I could have probably doubled the list of best ofs this year just because of what crowdfunding's done. Now,
I think Larry hopped in. I think he's got something to say about the.
Larry, he says you're looking at the future winner of the Blasties. The Blasties. Why didn't I ever call it that?
There you go.
We might have to do that. And by the way, there is an actual award, John. This is a misprint one that I keep my pens in here. This is a misprint of the one that went to Scott Snyder last year for Best Writer.
Okay.
And it had, stuff was not done on it right, so they redid it. And I'm like, "You want this back?" They're like, "No, you can keep it." I'm like, "Cool." So
cool. Yeah.
But we've done it for 6 years running now. I was going to change the trophies this year, but I didn't get around to doing it in time. I wanted to get something that looked nicer and was maybe more economical.
Mm-hmm.
And they did these medallions that were embossed, but I really wanted to get these. They're like Olympic medals.
Right.
With ribbons and stuff. Which on a per unit cost, they would be cheaper, but the setup was I had to buy 500 of them. I'm like, I have all my awards for the next 10 years.
Exactly.
It's like
they're blasting awards every month. Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Especially since I have to take them back to get engraved every year anyway, so they can have their name and what category is on it.
Right. Yeah, that will work.
But if you're interested in, of course, voting for the best comic of 2020, as well as the best movie series, best movie actor, best series actor, best comics writer, best comics artist, and is that everything? No, we have our bombshell of the year as well. We do a monthly cosplay feature where we have a bombshell of the month showing off their cosplay and answering some questions about what they do and the charities they support.
Okay.
And then at the end of the year, those 12 are up for being who might be the cosplay bombshell of the year.
Nice. I like that. So the cosplayers need to do a little bit of charity as well.
They do. It's it's kind of part of what we look for when we ask somebody if they would like to have the spotlight this go around. And we're not looking for what am I saying? We're not looking for the next Yaya Han because, quite frankly, she already has her own website and doesn't need us. We're looking for cosplay.
Yeah.
who's doing some stuff and is good at it, but could get better and is on his way up.
No, that makes sense. That's pretty cool, man. I like that.
Look at this Rebel
Oh,
Game.
Larry's in there politicking, man. Larry's in there. He's in there. He's kissing babies right now, and he's winning. He's earning votes.
When he gets the trophy, he'll give a speech. The only speeches we've ever gotten have been from our cosplay models. They do an acceptance speech. But yeah, we would love to have had the other people do speeches as well. I mean, first year, second year we did it. I don't know what year it was. I will say that we do not select the best of. We put the nominations out there, and then people nominate right in. But the readers select. So when I say that Daisy Ridley got Best Actor for the year for The Force Awakens, don't blame me.
Everybody's like, RJ, come on, man.
But I will say that the trophies went to Lucasfilm, and we got a very nice letter back from them, thanking us for thank the readers. It went to them. They're the ones who made the decision. Would have been great if Daisy Ridley would have done a little speech with the trophy and sent it to us to put on our YouTube channel. We'd have appreciated the hours.
Exactly.
Now you mentioned a previous book that was this monster-sized 170-something odd pages here.
That's right, Black Tiger.
Black Tiger. Was that something you crowdfunded?
Yeah, we crowdfunded that. I was actually, Larry had me on his show for Black Tiger. This is I don't have any more. I got to get. I'll print. I'll do a second printing when we do the next. But it's a thick one. It's a big one. Yeah. When we do the next round, we're gonna do another after this Magna campaign. We're gonna do the next Black Tiger story. So we'll reprint the first so that those that didn't get the first can get it. And then we'll also have the second available. It's this whole crowdfunding thing. I'm still trying to figure it out in its entirety. I didn't realize I'd underprinted. I didn't want to have a whole bunch of books in my apartment. And my wife's like, "Yeah, we're not going to be turning your unsold books into furniture." So,
well, that's what the long white boxes are for. I've got like 28 of them here. You can throw upholstery over these things and arrange them in chairs and sofas, and then you're just making furniture out of your comic book collection. It works.
Exactly.
So did you always want to make comics before this crowdfunding?
Oh yeah, very much so. I mean, comics. That's my favorite medium of all time. I think, from my perspective, this whole revolution that's going on, this renaissance that's happening, if anybody that's interested in making books, this is the time. There's been no time like this. If you've got a story to tell, this is the time to do it. I was first published in the mid-'90s. I worked at Motown Animation. Motown had a group in Mid-Wilshire, LA, that they put together. It was Michael Davis, who was one of the Milestone guys. He struck a deal with Motown, and he had a bunch of kids he had a studio called Bad Boy Studios in New York. He had a bunch of artists, really talented guys that he brought from New York to LA. And a buddy of mine, he hired on as an editor. And at the time, I was at USC in school, and my buddy said, "Hey, I think I can get you a job over here. I know how much you love comics, because I was a comic book geek when it wasn't cool to be a comic book geek. So it's like, okay, well, you love comics because you're that guy. You're that nerdy guy." So he got me a job over there as basically a gopher. But I was always, for like 2 years, I was pitching my boss, pitching him stuff all the time. He's just like, look, what I need you to do is to get me some coffee and to arrange this meeting. What I don't need you doing, but it all worked out because eventually one of the guys, and RJ, back in the day, if you wanted to get your book published, pretty much you had to go through Diamond.
Yeah.
And they being Motown, they had to deal with Image for the publishing portion. So they already put their solicitations for a particular book that I made by a creator who I love named Chuck Drost, and his book was called Trouble Man. And the solicitations were already in, and the writer just ghosted. So my boss comes up to me on a Thursday. I'll never forget it. And he says, like, look, John, he's like, you've been harassing me for like the last 2 years about writing gig. He's like, you're going to go home and you're going to come back on Tuesday and you're going to come to me with a first issue script and a story arc for what was going to be a 4-issue miniseries. And he's like, no pressure, but believe me, you mess this up, you don't have to worry about working in this industry ever again. But hey, no pressure. Just, So the beautiful thing though is, like, his artist Chuck, all these guys, so they were from New York, so none of them could drive, so they all had apartments right next to the office, really near the office. So after work, this was back when Doom was a big game. We would either like network and play Doom, or I would go over to Chuck's place and we would just riff off of some either stories or things like that. So I had a whole bunch of stuff already written for this property, and it was stuff that Chuck wanted to see done. So, my boss, he didn't find out till years later. I actually already had scripts. I went home and I, kind of with Chuck's blessing, just really, yeah. He was on there. I'm looking at the message. Yeah, I got, I put Michael in touch with the guys over at Pop XP, because when I was on there, they're like, oh, you work for Michael, we'd love to have him on. So it's a small world. And Billy already knew Michael, he just didn't have Michael's contact info. But going back to Trouble Man, so I came back on Tuesday with the script, and my boss was like, okay, this is fine. He liked it, but he didn't want to give me too much shine. And I didn't tell him until years later that I already had it written.
He thought you wrote it in a rush. And
he said, yeah, you did a good job. He didn't realize I've been working on that for a long time. I didn't want to. He's like, oh, you bastard. I revealed that to him much later. So Trouble Man ended up being published by Image, and the first 3 issues got published. And Dennis Cowan was the art director, so he did like some of the the thumbnails, especially like on the 3rd issue. I mean, that guy, he's wow, just amazing. My buddy Chuck is an amazing artist, but Dennis Cowan, that dude is a master.
I love this stuff on the question.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, that was my introduction. That was the first time I actually got published. And I was like, man, this is amazing. This is awesome. I would love to be able to continue to do this. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to continue to garner work that way. So, I've been working in other ways to sustain myself. But comics, I love. It's the best medium ever.
And you took the traditional path. I mean, Peter David talks about, he sort of apocalypse. He came up through the mailroom in a manner of speaking. He just got a job at Marvel so that he was around it, and then was able to pitch stories. And write. But I didn't know that Motown had an animation department.
Because they actually made no animation. All we actually made were comic books. We only made comic books.
You said Motown animation. I'm thinking like, is that the same people who did the Jackson 5 cartoon when I was?
So the group was originally called Motown Animation. If you look up the books, it was under the moniker Motown Machine Works. So that was kind of the comic book label. And so just understanding, in the early 90s, that was the big comic book boom. There were $1 million books, and Motown saw that and, like, hey, let's get into this game and we can make $1 million books because, it's that easy. And, why not? And
everything black and white in case you haven't noticed.
Oh, exactly. That's why I'm, living here in this apartment. It's just easy. But what ended up happening is by the time the books were released, we're talking about the mid 90s, the bubble had already burst. These $1 million numbers that Motown was expecting to move, they were respectable, maybe 20,000. The units were 15, 20,000 in terms of units, and that's not what they're expecting to move. So like, this isn't what we got into this for. So that was a ship that they ended up abandoning, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That was it was, I think it was just poor. It was poor expectations. The expectation that everyone's books were going to be like Jim Lee's and Michael Turner's and.
Oh, sure, because we just buy everything. We don't look at the cover or anything. We're just like, yeah, these are the new books. We just give us all of them, of course. That's
exactly. I'll take 10 of those.
Yeah,
and all you need to do is have a couple. Have a foil cover, and
yeah.
I'll take 5. One I'm going to keep sealed. That's how it is.
One I'm going to put up on eBay.
Exactly, because it's an economic strategy.
Oh, I'm going to put it in the closet next to all my Beanie Babies, which are going to be my retirement.
Exactly, and I'm just going to watch it appreciate in value. That's it.
Oh man, Now I'm thinking of the Jackson 5 cartoon and thinking, what if somebody did a comic book company that did nothing but tell stories using old abandoned animation properties, and tell new stories drawn in the old animation style way.
Like just old properties, you're saying?
Yeah, just like good. Do the Jackson 5 and Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids and the Brady Kids and Clue Club, and all that stuff that's just sitting around in the Warner vaults and stuff. But new stories, you'd have an all ages market that you could just build off of. Saturday 1970 or something.
I mean, and isn't that kind of in effect what Filmation did when they made the Star Trek cartoon back in the day? I mean, basically they were just kind of trying to pick up the adventures where they kind of left off.
Well, and I'll tell you, I have had the pleasure. I've been around a while. I'm old, John, but I've had the pleasure of having an audio interview with Lou Scheimer, who was the head of Filmation, and he talked about that. He's like, yes, it was. It was just picking up right at the end of the. Of the mission, 3 years into the 5-year mission, they were able to continue it. And he talked about it with Gene Roddenberry. He's like, look, we can tell the stories that you couldn't tell before, because guess what? We can have real aliens on here, and we as part of the crew, not just have to put old makeup on them and pointy ears,
right?
Which your photography people are going to color correct anyway, so the spot doesn't look green. And he said they won an Emmy for that, and he was kind of he wasn't dismissing the fact that they won the Emmy for Star Trek, but he said I always thought that our first Emmy should have been for Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids.
Wow.
He really thought that was a much bigger deal for Filmation, and I was talking with, I made the man cry.
You step on his toe?
No, but I was like 45 when I was talking to him, and I was like, I said, what, Lou? I got to call him Lou. I felt like Ted Baxter. Hi, Lou. I said I had to go in for surgery a couple of years ago, and it was the first time in my whole life that I'd ever gone under the knife for something, to the hospital. Never broke a bone. Never had a serious overnight check-in or anything, and I was going in for surgery, and I was like, they're wheeling me down to anesthetic, and the only thing going through my head is Fat Albert and the Junkyard Gang in their little band playing
Nice.
Be Scared at a Hospital. He's like, you remembered that song? Oh, I'm 45 years old, and the Junkyard Gang is singing this, and I'm like calming down to it. And he's like, tell me how choked up he was getting just for knowing that he'd had that kind of an impact on somebody that lasted a whole life. And I was like, I'm not the only one that happened to that, man. You had a generation of people who will remember certain bits and pieces that stick with them.
Yeah.
From that show and from every other show you did.
Yeah. And the Cosby Kids, I mean, they were always providing you with a moral. They were always, it was always about a lesson.
Yeah. And you know what? They didn't have to.
Yeah.
There wasn't a law telling them they had to do that, because there was no Fat Albert action figure line that was out there to
Right.
put up. They just did it because Bill wanted to do it. Man, that was
cartoons. Those old cartoons.
Oh yeah. Well, back to you're late to the chat this time around. We've been looking at a really cool crowdfunder here too. I'll show it again. Why not? It's why we're supposed to really be here, not to just talk about old man stuff. Back in my day. But this is Magna, the Last Pantheon, and again, I just scroll down here. This is $25 graphic novel, 76 pages. Look at the cover art on this stuff. This is gorgeous cover art. And just so I'm not waxing eloquent about the cover art, here's the interiors of this. The details on this are just phenomenal as well. The backgrounds, the anatomy. There's nothing cheap or amateurish anywhere in here.
And I wanted people to see that the book truly is produced. So I mean, pencils, all the way to the letters, the colors in the letters. The book is produced. So there's no risk in that regard. You don't need to. We didn't need the dollars for the production.
No, and in fact, here's the thing: this thing's got 2 more weeks to fund. As soon as it's funded, it's literally click button, say print.
Yep.
Okay, make this many of them, and then start shipping. That's
right. Our intention is, if possible, we'd like to have everyone's book in their hand before the quarter is up. I can't see unless something unforeseeable happens. I can't see why that wouldn't be the case.
Yeah, unless like something crazy like a global pandemic comes up and all the printing companies shut down.
I can't believe that. That's
never happened. You're thinking of stuff, RJ, that's just it's never gonna happen. I used to be a software tester, John, and one of the things that they had me doing, I was software testing for the military, and my first job. They had these handheld scanners, and they were like, test these things and then get back to us the things that you break. And I would do something, I'd send in a report, and they were like, finally, Lieutenant Jason came back to my cube with a sheet of paper, and he had tape on it. He slapped it up against my wall. A list of 10 things says, the customer will not do these things. Don't test for them. I was like, fine, whatever. 3 days later, he comes in with a Sharpie and crosses one of them off. John, you're muted. You're muted.
Sorry. I'm over here talking to myself. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like, and he would just come in and start crossing things off the list because you know what? Yeah, the customer will do that. I can't be the only stupid person in the world. So let me put my stupidity to good use for you, sir. So just getting in the last word here on this book, Magna, we have a young lady who's going to discover, I'm going to try my hand to this, Katie Skogholm.
Yes.
Katie Skogholm in Finland is going to discover that there's something special about her, that she is the offspring of gods and humans. She's a neo-Nephilim, if we want to put a fancy classical title to it. She's a demigod. That's what they're called. They're demigods. And she's got this enhanced strength. The world is changing. It's 1942. Look, she's lifting a Russian tank here, learning about who she is. The other gods and demigods are walking about. You have Isis, you have Loki, you have Heracles, Heimdall, and the 2 people that no one ever is going to remember. But you dug them up from obscurity. So,
Herrenberg knows.
Oh, Herrenberg knows a lot of stuff. You should have been in on our first anthology, John, because Critical Blast, aside from doing a website, we do reviews and a YouTube show where we interview guys like you, we also publish books. And our first anthology was a book called Gods and Services, where we were looking for people to write short stories about obscure gods who had found out that they had nothing left to do in the world and were looking for stuff to do. They attached themselves to trinkets in this little flea market, and you would buy something and take it home and find out that you had bought a god, and because you'd made a sacrifice, it now had to grant you boons, and you had paid it tribute, so it had to serve you, so to speak. whether you wanted it to or not. And the link for that's in the description below if you want to check out Gods and Services, Bulletproof Origins, or our latest one, The Devil You Know. All that good stuff is there. And of course, if you check our Twitter feed, you're going to learn more and more and more about Critical Blast Logistics, where we have just announced today and shown that we can take a UK crowdfunded comic book. It's just the comic book. We can ship that anywhere in the US for $8.
Boom. That's good stuff.
So this $25 shipping that you're looking at on UK stuff, if they go through us, won't happen.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
That's a very big deal because, they're losing money because people won't buy a book that they've got to pay, more for the shipping than they're paying for the book.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be part of, the solution set that we see this year and in 21 and maybe even in 22. That's going to be a big part of it. And then I think, some of you guys are going to come together and figure out how we're also going to be able to ship internationally from here as well.
Yeah, it's going
to be a game changer.
Someone over there is going to have to copy the model, and I'll be happy to work with them on that and help them set up. But you know what, John? This is also going to do something else as we keep it rolling. This is going to get your book, even though you're not in the UK. What our service will end up doing, we'll work with domestic shippers or with domestic crowdfunders, because this will get your book on retailer shelves. Because that's the next progression in the whole thing, is that when we have multiple UK clients sending us their books, we're going to encourage them to overship their books, so that when they're in demand, we'll already have it here. Don't ship it again.
Right.
And if you really overship, what we're going to do is we're going to start notifying retailers saying, hey, we have limited edition import comics that you can get from us. And not only can you get them from us, but you can get them a la carte. So you can say, give me 2 Charlie's London, 1 Volucent, and a couple of these, and they come in 1 box, 1 shipping charge. You don't have to pay shipping on every single title individually. And once we're doing that with UK, there's no reason why everybody who's producing a comic book in the US can't just say, hey, RJ, would you guys mind holding 20 to 25 copies of our book so that it's in your catalog for US retailers to buy from you and have bulk shipped to their stores and put on their shelves?
So that makes perfect sense. Man, we're going to really see this whole thing really just evolve over the course of the next couple of years, aren't we?
We definitely are, and I've already got domestic people, domestic customers interested in having us ship for them, even though we can't save the money, and we've already got retailers interested in looking at that model once we have an inventory to work from. So it's
retailers have to be rethinking their lives right now. They have to realize that indies are going to play a part in their future. In a much more significant way than in recent past.
Yeah, and I know some of the more successful comic stores that I've gone to, they've got their section that they get from Diamond or Luna now because they've got choices. But they're bigger on the indie comics, and they have the crowdfunded stuff, but they've really got to upcharge it because they had to pay for the shipping. Even when it's a special retailer tier. It's like, wow, the shipping on it was like so much, I've got to charge you $15 for this $10 book. But that's going to change, and we're going to be part of that, and I cannot wait. We're just chomping at the bit and ready to go. We've got our first domestic partner ready to ship with us, and we're ready for anybody in the UK, Australia, Canada, Africa, Afghanistan, Switzerland, you name it. Contact us and let us know that you want to do something with your campaign. We'll tell you what you set your shipping at once we work all the numbers with you, so that when you go up, your biggest market's going to be the United States, and they're going to look at the campaign and they're going to say, oh, it's another overseas campaign. The book really looks good, but the shipping is only this, and they're going to buy your book because the shipping didn't turn them away.
Right.
And
it's good stuff.
And you know what? The shipping on Magna is not going to turn you away because you're already here in the United States. So It will be exactly what you expect it to be. It's not listed on the, I'd have to go through the page where my credit card information is listed to show everybody the shipping.
Yeah, no, the shipping is, what people expect. It's in the $10 range for the shipping, and that's what you expect. It's the international shipping that gets pricey.
Yeah, I believe me, I know. I mentioned the Devil You Know anthology we did was our last one. We had 3 contributors to that book. Thank God it was only 3 who were overseas. We had 20 contributors total. Mm-hmm. We had 2 in the UK and 1 in Australia, and it was $27 to ship each one of those. That's just pricey. Yeah. So I know the hurt is on if you're wanting to ship stuff over there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, John, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show. This is a great book. I can see why you've overfunded by 1,200% already. This is a quality product, and the fact that it's already done has got to be a big selling point for people. They don't have to wait for this once the campaign's over.
Yeah, exactly. And I know all of us, we're all lovers of comics, and we're all supporting a lot of different books. And one good thing is you will get this book within the quarter. And don't get me wrong, I've got a lot of great books that I'm waiting on. I know it's going to take a while, and I'm fine with that. It's all kind of part of the game. But
I've been
with
this waiting on for 2 years.
Yeah. Well, I've got some that I know I'm not going to receive. That's not fun.
Yeah. Well, I know that one too.
That's not fun. I at least want people to know that's not going to happen here. The book is produced, so it's just a matter of, we already have the PDFs together for printing. So once the campaign is done and we know how many we're printing, that's what we'll do. We'll get to the printing, and then we will start the fulfillment process.
Now, you're obviously going to overprint by a certain percentage that you already know. And are you going to go in demand or?
Yes, going to go in demand. Definitely going to go in demand. And I've been talking with different people. I've been talking with like Phil Diaz and other folks that have just a lot more experience. And because one of the questions I always ask folks is about overage. It's like, but the thing is, like, maybe those numbers even change over time. I mean, if you guys are doing what you're doing, people may want to even print even more than that.
Yes, because guess what? You won't have to keep them in your apartment. You can have them kept here.
Right. Yeah.
we will inventory everything, and make it into a catalog for retailers. And then what we do is the retailer would buy it direct from us. We would send the money back to the crowdfunder. And there's no shipping involved. It's like, hey, you had a $10 book. Here's your $10 that the retailer just gave us, and we're making our money on the shipping fee. We've got the materials, we've got the U.S. postage service, and then we've got RJ's time.
Exactly. You got to have a margin for yourself in there.
Exactly, and I'm very transparent on that with anybody who wants to come on as a client. Look, here's what you say your thing is going to weigh. Here's what it's going to cost you to ship it to us. Divide that by your quantity. Here's what the post office charges. Here's what the supplies charge. I have the pennies down on this thing. Like, this is how much it's going to cost to put a label on the book and 3 pieces of tape on the box.
Right.
I was always taught, what? You take care of the pennies and the dollars will take care of themselves.
There you go.
You look at that stuff and you're like, I'm not going to figure out what the tape costs me. You know what? You're going to go broke on tape.
There you go. Exactly.
So plan all that crap out, the little stuff that you don't think about, and then see what your charges are. And I've already knocked the prices down, John, because when I first did this, I was like, okay, everything added up. The Gemini mailer, the bag, the board, the label, the tape was $1.20 per unit by the time I got everything down. And by shopping around, I've knocked that down to 92 cents now. I've knocked 25 cents off of this per unit price, which makes a difference.
Yeah, that's a lot, especially when you start moving the units. That turns into real money.
Yeah. You move 1,000 units, suddenly you're talking about $250 somewhere. Mm-hmm. That's a hit. So, yeah. Well, you know what? Enough about that. Let's just go ahead and wrap this up. Remind everybody in the chat, thank you for coming. Do appreciate you being here. Had a great show tonight. John,
thank you, RJ.
Magna, it looks like a great book. We hope everybody out there will get out there and back it. Take a look at it. Link is in the description below if you're watching the replay to this. Get out there, take a look at this. This is an economically priced book, great size. It's a very thick book, 76 pages, with fantastic artwork in it. And a unique story that I think people are going to like. So with that, I've got nothing more to say. John, is there anything I should have asked you about this book that you're like, damn it, RJ, why won't you ask me the question that actually needs answering?
No, I think you did a great job in asking questions. You know, people feel free. You can find me at Beyond Time Inc. That's my Twitter. That's my Instagram. That's also my YouTube channel. So, you know, I'm happy to be a part of the community. You know, if you follow me, my intention is to follow you back. You know, if I don't, just be like, hey, guy, and I will.
All right. With that, we're going to close things out. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Appreciate it. And we will be back tomorrow with Marvin Wynn talking about his book, The Edge.